The morning sun cast long shadows across the marble floors of Earth's Global Defense Command as General Kim Tae-hyun reviewed the daily reports. At 62, his face showed every year of military service, each line carved by decisions that affected billions of lives. He had expected another routine briefing about trade negotiations or colonial supply lines. He had not expected to receive humanity's death sentence. The holographic projector hummed to life without warning, filling the center of the war room with an eerie blue light. The alien figure that materialized was unlike anything most humans had ever seen in person. Standing nearly 8 feet tall, the Veilthran ambassador possessed a crystalline body that seemed to bend light around its edges. 4 arms moved independently, each ending in delicate fingers that could manipulate technology with frightening precision. Its head was elongated, housing clusters of sensory organs that constantly shifted and adjusted like living jewels. Humans of Earth, the creature spoke, its voice emerging from universal translation devices scattered throughout the room. The technology converted the aliens' natural harmonic frequencies into words that human ears could understand, but something was lost in translation. The cold indifference in its tone needed no interpretation. The Galactic Dominion has reached its final decision regarding your species in this world. You have 1 solar cycle to evacuate your primitive planet. This system holds strategic value that your species cannot comprehend or utilize effectively. General Tae-hyun felt his blood freeze. Around the room, senior staff members exchanged glances of barely controlled panic. Captain Lee Miho, the general's aide and one of Earth's most decorated soldiers, stepped forward. His jaw clenched as he spoke. And if we refuse? The alien's head tilted at an angle that would have snapped a human neck. The sound it produced was like grinding glass mixed with distant screams. What might have been amusement in its species came across as pure menace to human ears. 3 of your colonial worlds have already received their answer. Kepler 442b. Wolf 1061c. Proxima Centauri b. Nothing remains but ash and radiation. The words hit the room like physical blows. Each world mentioned had housed millions of human colonists, families, children. Scientists working to terraform harsh environments into new homes for humanity. All gone. President Park Ji-hoon had been listening from his secure bunker beneath Seoul, connected by quantum communication links. Through the cameras, Tae-hyun could see the leader's face struggling to maintain diplomatic composure while rage burned in his eyes. Park had grandchildren on Wolf 1061c. We need time to consider, the president said, his voice steady despite everything. 1 cycle, the Veilthran repeated. The hologram flickered once and vanished, leaving the room in normal lighting that somehow seemed too bright after the alien presence. Silence stretched across the command center. Outside, the world continued its normal routine. People went to work, children attended school, couples planned their futures. None of them knew that humanity had just received notice of extinction. Dr. Choi Soo-yoon broke the quiet by activating her secure tablet. The device required both biometric scans and quantum encryption keys to function. As Earth's leading xenobiologist and one of only 12 people who knew about Protocol Lazarus, her next words would change everything. Mr. President, it's time. General Tae-hyun looked up sharply. He had helped design Protocol Lazarus during the early days of human space expansion, when first contact scenarios were still theoretical. Back then they had planned for every possibility except the one that mattered most. What if the aliens were stronger? Protocol Lazarus? He asked quietly. President Park nodded grimly from his bunker screen. Wake them up. All of them. The authorization codes were transmitted simultaneously to 17 locations across Earth. Most were hidden beneath mountain ranges or ocean floors, invisible to orbital scanning and protected by technology that wouldn't be invented for another century. The Tibetan facility was the largest, but similar installations existed under the Andes, beneath the Pacific Ocean floor, and in caverns throughout the Siberian tundra. Deep beneath the Tibetan plateau, automated systems that had waited in silence for 47 years suddenly blazed to life. Warning lights cast red shadows across corridors that no human foot had walked since the day the volunteers went to sleep. The air itself seemed to hum with anticipation as massive cryogenic chambers began their warming cycles. Inside each chamber lay a human who had volunteered for something unprecedented in history. They were soldiers, scientists, engineers, and doctors who had undergone procedures that pushed the boundaries of what it meant to be human. Cybernetic implants enhanced their nervous systems. Nanobotic colonies in their bloodstreams could adapt to hostile environments within hours. Genetic modifications allowed them to interface directly with technology that conventional humans couldn't even touch safely. Most importantly, they had been chosen for their psychological profiles. Each volunteer possessed the rare combination of absolute loyalty to humanity and the flexibility to become something else when necessary. They were Earth's hidden guardians, designed not just to fight aliens, but to understand them, adapt to them, and ultimately defeat them using their own advantages against them. The first chamber completed its warming cycle at 1423 Greenwich Mean Time. Inside, Major Song Daeho opened his eyes for the first time since 2157. His enhanced vision immediately began analyzing the chamber's interior, while nanobots in his system started adapting to the current atmospheric conditions. Neural implants connected him to the facility's quantum network, downloading 47 years of human history in seconds. Across Earth, similar awakenings were taking place. The real defenders of humanity were stirring from their long sleep, and they were hungry for revenge. The Galactic Dominion had made their biggest mistake. They had given Earth one full cycle to prepare. It would be enough. The sky above New York had turned black with alien ships. Commander Yoon Seo-jun pressed his face against the reinforced glass of his underground bunker, watching the massive Veilthran dreadnoughts block out the sun. Each ship was the size of a small city, their crystalline hulls reflecting the morning light in patterns that hurt human eyes to look at directly. "Sir, they're buying it," reported Lieutenant Han Jaiwan from her position at the monitoring station. Banks of screens showed feeds from around the globe. Thousands of human evacuation ships were fleeing Earth, their engines burning bright as they raced toward the outer system. To alien sensors, it looked like humanity was running away in terror. Seo-jun nodded grimly. The evacuation was real, but not in the way the aliens thought. Every ship that left carried actors playing their roles perfectly. They transmitted panicked messages, argued about supplies, and even staged fights over limited space. Meanwhile, the people who stayed behind were far from ordinary civilians. 2 billion humans had officially refused to leave Earth. Immigration records showed them as shopkeepers, teachers, farmers, and factory workers. In reality, each one was a trained operative who had spent years preparing for this moment. Nanobotic enhancements flowed through their bloodstreams, allowing them to survive injuries that would kill normal humans. Quantum communication implants connected them to a worldwide network that could coordinate actions instantly across the entire planet. The first alien attack began at exactly noon, Pacific time. Seo-jun watched through his bunker sensors as beams of pure energy lanced down from the Veilthran fleet. The weapons were unlike anything humanity had seen before. They didn't just destroy buildings, they converted matter into energy, leaving perfect spheres of glass where city blocks had once stood. Los Angeles disappeared in a flash of white light. Then London. Then Moscow. Each strike was calculated to cause maximum terror while demonstrating the aliens' overwhelming power. The message was clear: resistance was impossible. On the surface, resistance fighter Song Daeho crouched in the ruins of what had been Seoul's financial district. His enhanced eyes tracked the movement of Veilthran ground forces as they established patrol routes. Through his neural link, he transmitted his final message to the underground command centers. "Remember our faces. Remember our names. We die so Earth lives." The words reached thousands of hidden operatives across the planet. Each one understood their mission. They would fight and they would lose and they would die. But their deaths would serve a purpose that the aliens could never imagine. Song raised his rifle, a primitive human weapon that posed no real threat to Veilthran battle armor, and fired at a passing patrol. The aliens returned fire instantly, their plasma weapons reducing him to atoms in seconds. To them, it was just another example of human stupidity. They didn't know that Song's nanobots had recorded every detail of their weapons, their armor, and their tactics before his death. The information was transmitted through quantum channels to analysis centers deep underground, where human scientists studied every frame of data. The slaughter continued for weeks. Veilthran forces swept across every continent, hunting down the remaining humans with methodical precision. They used different weapons on different targets, testing the effectiveness of various systems. They experimented with fear tactics trying to break human morale. They recorded everything they did, confident that the data would help them conquer other worlds more efficiently. What they didn't understand was that every death was being recorded by the other side as well. Human observers hidden in sewers, in collapsed buildings, in underground tunnels watched and learned. Advanced computers analyzed alien behavior patterns, communication protocols, and technological capabilities. A massive database grew larger every day, filled with information that would have taken decades to gather through conventional intelligence operations. In the orbital command station high above Earth, Veilthran officers celebrated their easy victory. Subcommander Velthanair stood before a holographic display showing human casualty reports. The numbers climbed steadily: 50 million dead, 100 million, 200 million. Humans are even weaker than our projections suggested. He laughed, his crystalline face shifting colors in what passed for amusement among his species. Perhaps we were too generous giving them 6 months to evacuate. We could have conquered this world in 6 days. His fellow officers agreed, sharing what they thought was humor about human cowardice. They had expected at least some organized resistance from a species that had managed to colonize other star systems. Instead, they found scattered groups of civilians with primitive weapons who died as soon as they were discovered. None of them noticed the small anomalies in their sensor data. Tiny fluctuations that suggested their quantum communications were being monitored. Microscopic traces of unknown materials that clung to their equipment after battles. Energy signatures that didn't quite match human technology but were too weak to investigate. Miles below the surface, in reinforced bunkers that could survive direct nuclear strikes, General Ominsik studied invasion patterns on holographic displays that showed every alien movement across the planet. The data was beautiful in its completeness. Formation tactics, weapon signatures, command protocols, communication frequencies, everything the aliens did was being recorded and analyzed. "They're revealing everything," he murmured to his staff. "Our people on the surface are doing exactly what we trained them to do." Major Kong Yura approached with a data pad showing status reports from facilities across the globe. Green lights indicated that all systems were functioning perfectly. The real defenders of Earth were awake and ready. "Sir, the sleepers are fully active. All systems green." Minsik allowed himself a cold smile. The aliens thought they had won. Soon they would learn what Earth really had waiting for them. The red sand of the Australian wasteland stretched endlessly under the alien-darkened sky. Patrol Unit 7 moved in their standard formation, for Veilthran soldiers scanning for human survivors among the ruins of what had once been Adelaide. Their crystalline armor gleamed dully in the filtered sunlight as they methodically searched building after building. Sublieutenant Kethvar checked his scanner for the 100th time that morning. The device showed no life signs, no energy signatures, nothing that suggested human presence. Just like every other patrol over the past 3 weeks, the humans were either all dead or had learned to hide very well. "Sector 7 Alpha clear," he reported through his communication implant. "Moving to 7 Beta." The response from command came instantly. "Acknowledged Unit 7. Maintain standard sweep pattern." It was the last transmission anyone would receive from Patrol Unit 7. Captain Nam Woojin watched from his concealed position 300 meters away. His cybernetically enhanced eyes tracked each alien soldier with perfect precision, while his neural implants calculated attack vectors and escape routes. 50 years of cryogenic sleep had not dulled his skills. If anything, the decades of preparation and enhancement had made him something far more dangerous than any human soldier who had come before. His body was adapting even as he lay hidden. Nanobots in his bloodstream sampled the alien atmosphere that the Veilthrans had introduced to Earth, learning its composition and adjusting his metabolism accordingly. His skin temperature shifted to match the surrounding rocks. His heartbeat slowed to almost nothing, while his enhanced organs continued to function at peak efficiency. The transformation went deeper than physical adaptation. His neural implants were processing stolen Veilthran technology, learning their communication protocols and energy signatures. Within minutes, his body began producing a biosignature that would read as Veilthran to their sensors. "Ghost protocol active," he whispered into his quantum communication device. The message was encoded in quantum frequencies that no alien technology could intercept or decode. Across Earth, in hidden positions from the frozen ruins of Moscow to the flooded remains of Miami, 200 similar operators received the same signal. Each one had been enhanced in different ways, trained for different missions, but all shared the same purpose. The real war was about to begin. Nam moved like liquid shadow across the broken landscape. His enhanced muscles allowed him to cover ground silently at speeds that would have seemed impossible to normal humans. When he reached the first Veilthran soldier, the alien never even noticed the attack. The nanobots in Nam's fingertips dissolved the soldier's armor at the molecular level while simultaneously recording every detail of its construction. The alien died without making a sound, its communication implants destroyed before they could transmit an alarm. One by one, Patrol Unit 7 simply ceased to exist. 2,000 kilometers away, Sergeant Lim Soo-young was conducting her own mission near the ruins of Tokyo. The Veilthran communication relay station rose from the rubble like a crystal flower, its surfaces pulsing with alien energy patterns. Getting inside would have been impossible for any normal human. Soo-young was no longer entirely human. She pressed her hand against the bioscanner at the relay's entrance. Her nanobots had spent the last 6 hours analyzing genetic material from a dead Veilthran patrol leader. Now they reproduced his exact biosignature, fooling the alien security systems completely. The door opened with a harmonic chime. Inside, alien technology hummed with activity. Streams of data flowed through crystalline conduits, carrying messages between the occupation forces and their fleet commanders. Soo-young approached the main terminal and placed her palm against its surface. Her enhanced nervous system interfaced directly with the alien network. Data flowed through her neural implants at incredible speeds while her nanobots protected her from the security viruses that tried to attack her mind. Within minutes, she had access to everything. "I'm in their network," she reported through her quantum link. "Downloading command structures, fleet positions, and..." She paused as a particularly valuable piece of information appeared on her screen: their homeworld coordinates. The data flowed directly to underground command centers where human scientists and strategists had been waiting for this moment. Every piece of alien intelligence brought them closer to understanding not just how to fight the Veilthrans, but how to defeat them completely. Dr. Kwan Hyojin sat in her deep underground laboratory, surrounded by screens showing streams of intercepted alien data. Each transmission was automatically decoded, analyzed, and added to a growing database of Veilthran knowledge. Communication protocols, weapon specifications, psychological profiles, technological weaknesses, everything was being cataloged and studied. "Fascinating," she murmured as another batch of files appeared. The aliens were remarkably careless with their information security. They seemed to assume that no primitive species could possibly understand their technology well enough to intercept it. As more data flowed in, a disturbing pattern began to emerge. The Veilthrans weren't just conquering Earth, they were studying human reactions to different types of warfare. Testing weapon effectiveness. Measuring psychological responses to various terror tactics. "They're not just occupiers," she realized with growing excitement. "They're test subjects." The aliens thought they were conducting experiments on humanity. In reality, every action they took was providing invaluable intelligence to the human defenders. Each attack revealed more about their capabilities and limitations. Each communication intercept exposed more of their strategic thinking. Major Jang Sungo led his enhanced squad through the ruins of Berlin, tracking another Veilthran patrol. His soldiers moved like ghosts through the rubble, their bodies adapted to perfectly mimic alien biosignatures. When they struck, it was with weapons that the aliens had never seen before. Their own technology turned against them. The patrol died without ever knowing they were under attack. Their equipment was harvested, their communication codes stolen, their tactical data recorded. To the alien command structure, it looked like another routine patrol had simply stopped reporting due to equipment failure. Sungo smiled as he watched his team work. The aliens were being dissected from within, piece by piece, and they had no idea that the surgery had even begun. The command bridge of the Veilthran flagship Eternal Dominance buzzed with frustrated activity. Fleet Commander Korthvel stood before a holographic display that showed Earth's surface divided into colored zones. Green areas indicated secure Veilthran control. Yellow showed contested regions. Red marked areas where something was going very wrong. There was far too much red. "Explain this to me again," Korthvel demanded, his crystalline features shifting through colors that indicated deep irritation. "How does an entire patrol unit simply vanish without a trace?" Subcommander Velthanair manipulated the display, zooming in on the Australian sector. Unit 7 was conducting routine sweeps when they stopped reporting. "We sent Unit 12 to investigate. They found no wreckage, no bodies, no signs of battle. Nothing. Equipment malfunction? That was our first assumption. But then Unit 12 also disappeared. And Unit 15. We've lost 47 patrol units in the past month alone." Korthvel's anger deepened, his body radiating heat that made the air around him shimmer. 3 months into what should have been a simple occupation, his forces were reporting problems that made no sense. Communication networks suffering mysterious blackouts. Weapons systems developing impossible malfunctions. Personnel disappearing during routine duties. "It's impossible," he insisted, his voice carrying the harmonic undertones of absolute certainty. "Our scans show no human military presence. These primitives lack the technology for guerrilla warfare on this scale." He was wrong on every count, but Korthvel would not learn this for several more weeks. Deep within the flagship's maintenance levels, Corporal Park Young-ho completed another circuit of the quantum processing core. To alien sensors he appeared to be a standard maintenance servitor, one of the simple robotic units that kept their ships running. His disguise was perfect because it wasn't really a disguise at all. 6 weeks earlier, Park had infiltrated the ship by allowing himself to be captured. The Veilthrans had scanned him, determined he was just another primitive human, and sent him to the processing centers to be converted into a servitor. They had no idea that his nanobotic systems were designed to survive exactly that process. The conversion that should have destroyed his mind instead gave him complete access to the ship's systems. His enhanced neural processing allowed him to interface directly with Veilthran technology while his nanobots slowly worked their way through the ship's security protocols. Every day he learned more about how their systems worked. Every night he planted small programs that would activate when needed. Park paused near a critical power junction and placed his palm against the alien crystal matrix. His nanobots flowed into the system like a virus, but instead of destroying anything they simply waited. When the time came, the ship's own weapons would turn against its crew. Across Earth, similar operations were taking place. Colonel Shin Jae-won led teams that had perfected the art of becoming the enemy. Using biomimetic disguises grown from captured Veilthran genetic material, enhanced humans walked freely through alien camps and command centers. The technology was horrifying in its effectiveness. Living tissue cultures could reproduce alien skin, organs, even nervous systems. Human operatives would spend weeks inside bioregeneration pods, allowing their bodies to be reshaped at the cellular level. When they emerged, they were physically indistinguishable from the enemy. Shin himself had been posing as Security Chief Veilthran for over a month. His altered body produced the correct pheromones and biosignatures. His modified vocal cords could reproduce alien speech patterns perfectly. Even his thought processes had been adjusted to match Veilthran's psychological profiles. From his position of trust within the occupation command structure, he had access to every operational detail. Troop movements, supply schedules, strategic plans, all of it flowed through human intelligence networks faster than the aliens could implement their own decisions. "They're not fighting us," Subcommander Velthanar reported during a secured briefing with his superiors. "They're learning us. Every encounter teaches them more about our technology, our tactics, our weaknesses." The observation was accurate, but Velthanar didn't realize how accurate. Human learning systems were operating at levels that would have terrified him if he had understood their true scope. Every captured weapon was reverse-engineered within hours. Every intercepted communication revealed new details about Veilthran society and technology. Every dead alien provided genetic material for new infiltration operations. "Impossible," Fleet Commander Korthvel replied dismissively. "These humans are barely out of their primitive phase. They were using chemical rockets when we first observed them. How could they adapt to our technology so quickly?" But the reports kept coming. Equipment failures that followed impossible patterns. Communication systems that seemed to be intercepting and redirecting their own signals. Personnel who behaved strangely before disappearing entirely. The truth was revealed during what should have been a routine strategic planning session in the Beijing Command Center. 23 senior Veilthran officers had gathered to discuss the next phase of Earth's occupation. The meeting was held in a secure chamber deep underground, protected by multiple layers of alien security technology. Captain Bae Hyun-soo sat at the conference table, his crystalline features identical to those of the other officers present. He had been Medical Officer Kenthvar for 2 months, trusted with access to the most sensitive information about Veilthran operations on Earth. When he spoke, his voice carried the same harmonic frequencies as his alien colleagues. "I have been monitoring the human resistance activities," he said. "I believe we have made a fundamental error in our approach." The other officers turned their attention to him, expecting another analysis of primitive human tactics. Instead, Bay's body began to shift. His skin tone changed, his features rearranged themselves, and within seconds he stood before them in his original human form. "Your mistake," he said as the room's defensive systems activated and turned their weapons inward, "was thinking evolution takes centuries. For humans it only takes 1 generation." The conference room became a death trap as alien security systems obeyed new programming. Weapons designed to protect Veilthran officers instead eliminated them with clinical precision. Their own technology had become their executioner. Similar scenes played out across Earth as sleeper agents revealed themselves simultaneously. The hunt that had begun months earlier was finally ending, but not in the way anyone had expected. The Veilthran forces weren't being defeated in conventional battles. They were being absorbed, studied, and repurposed. Their own advanced technology had become humanity's greatest weapon. Admiral Korthvel's hands shook as he gripped the edge of his command console. The tactical display before him showed a nightmare that his military training had never prepared him for. Red warning lights covered more than half the holographic representation of his fleet. Ships that had been reporting normal status just hours ago were now dark, silent, or broadcasting distress signals that made no sense. The flagship Eternal Dominance shuddered as another vessel in the formation exploded without warning. Korthvel watched in horror as the heavy cruiser Subjugator tore itself apart from the inside, its own weapons firing into critical systems until the ship's reactor core breached. "Fleet status report," he demanded, though he already knew the answer would be terrible. His tactical officer's crystalline features flickered through colors indicating extreme stress. "Sir, we've lost 47 ships in the past 6 hours. The remaining vessels are reporting system failures, crew deaths from unknown toxins, and computer viruses that adapt faster than our security protocols can counter them." Korthvel stared at the display in disbelief. Half his fleet was gone. The other half was falling apart. 3,000 years of Veilthran military dominance, and a primitive species had somehow turned their own technology against them. "How is this possible?" he whispered. The answer came from his communications officer. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the planet's surface. It's addressed to you personally." The main view screen activated, showing a figure that Korthvel recognized from the initial invasion briefings. General Kim Tae-hyun had been identified as one of Earth's military leaders, but the being on screen looked different now. His eyes held a cold intelligence that seemed to see through space itself. His movements carried an unnatural precision. Most disturbing of all, he appeared to be enhanced with technology that the Veilthrans didn't recognize. "Admiral Korthvel," Tae-hyun began, his voice carrying an authority that made the alien commander's skin crawl. "I hope you don't mind the interruption, but I wanted to introduce you to my staff." The camera pulled back to reveal figures standing behind the human general. Korthvel's breath caught in his throat. There were representatives of 12 different species, all of them former subjects of the Dominion. They wore human military uniforms and carried themselves with the confidence of free beings rather than the broken posture of slaves. "Former Dominion slaves who accepted our offer of freedom in exchange for knowledge about your empire's weaknesses," Tae-hyun explained with casual menace. Korthvel's crystalline face paled to near transparency. "Impossible. Our subjects are loyal. They would never betray the Dominion." Colonel Yu Neon stepped forward. When she spoke, her voice carried harmonic frequencies from 3 different species, a feat that should have been biologically impossible for any single being. "We're loyal," she corrected, "until we showed them what you really thought of them." Your private communications were quite illuminating. The view screen split into multiple sections. Each one showed intercepted Dominion transmissions that had never been meant for public viewing. Korthvel watched in growing horror as his own officers appeared on screen, laughing about their livestock, planning the systematic extermination of inferior species once they were no longer useful, discussing which worlds to destroy purely for entertainment. The conversations were damning beyond any possible defense. Every cruel joke, every casual discussion of genocide, every moment when the Dominion's leaders had revealed their true contempt for the species they claimed to protect, all of it had been recorded and was now being broadcast across the galaxy. "You've been monitoring our communications for months," Korthvel realized. "Years actually," Tae-hyun replied. "We've been very patient. Very thorough." The effect of the broadcast was immediate and catastrophic. Across 17 star systems, enslaved species that had served the Dominion for generations suddenly turned against their masters. But these weren't desperate uprisings doomed to fail. The rebels were armed with human-adapted alien technology and detailed intelligence about Dominion military capabilities. On the mining worlds of the Kepler system, the insectoid Zephyri workers used modified Dominion plasma cutters to slice through their overseer's armor. On the agricultural planets of Alpha Centauri, the plant-based Verdani turned their atmospheric processors into weapons that poisoned Veilthran breathing systems. On the industrial stations orbiting Vega, the silicon-based constructors reprogrammed the automated defenses to target anyone with Dominion biosignatures. "You wanted to make an example of Earth," Tae-hyun continued as reports of rebellion flooded the Dominion communication networks. "Consider it done. Every species in the galaxy now knows that the Dominion can be beaten, that their technology can be turned against them, that their secrets can be stolen and shared." Korthvel's fleet was already in retreat, but there was nowhere safe to run. Emergency broadcasts flooded their communications from across the Empire. Dominion worlds were falling one by one, not to human invasion fleets, but to their own former slaves armed with stolen technology and burning with centuries of suppressed rage. The final message came from Earth's orbital defense platform, a massive structure that Korthvel now realized was constructed entirely from salvaged Dominion warships. The voice belonged to General Ominsik, and his words were simple and final. The coordinates of the Veilthran homeworld have been transmitted to every species you've oppressed. You have 1 solar cycle to surrender. Taehyun reappeared on screen, his enhanced features showing no mercy. You crossed our final line, he said quietly. Now we're crossing yours. In the depths of space, hybrid ships began moving toward the heart of the Dominion. They carried human crews enhanced with alien technology, supported by former slaves who knew every weakness in their former masters' defenses. They brought not conquest, but liberation for every enslaved world they would pass. The Galactic Dominion had ruled for 3,000 years through fear and superior technology. It would not survive its encounter with humanity's greatest weapon, the ability to turn enemies into allies and oppression into revolution. Earth had taught the galaxy that freedom was possible. Now the galaxy would teach the Dominion what freedom cost.